Lee, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you very much, Patrick. So I want to introduce to you Audrey Strong, who is going to be the moderator for today. You'll hear her running the question and answer sessions. That will be very helpful. Christina Hurley, that is my co-presenter today. She's the VP of Sales at BIA Advisory Services. And I'm C. Lee Smith. I'm the founder and CEO of SalesFuel, and we conducted this year's State of Media Sales as we do every other year. And this is our 13th edition of this study. So let's go ahead and dive in and let's get started here. So as I mentioned, the State of Media Sales was conducted this year in August 2025. So we just finished it up August 2025. And then we took the month after that then to process. It is our 13th biennial study, and we're managed to get 540 media sales professionals in the United States, including up to 200 sales managers. And this really runs the gamut of all media: TV, cable, newspapers, magazines, direct mail, radio, out of home, and even some pure play digital media as well. So that's what you're going to be hearing about today. And we're going to answer some very important questions today. First thing we're going to answer is, what are the top performing verticals for other media companies? So that you'll know what your colleagues are doing. You also know what your competitors are doing in other media. Next up, we have which categories will be the most lucrative for 2026. One of the questions that we asked of sales managers is, what categories do you have the most optimism for generating gains in the following year? We'll also then tell you how many media salespeople actually make quota and why do they do that? What separates them from those who do not make quota? Number 4, what are other media companies doing with AI? So we'll touch on AI, and we're also going to give you access to a free special report. It's 14 pages, and it's chock full of all of the survey responses from this study then that involve AI, because it could really be a separate webinar at this point. And then what else should I be doing in the year ahead? We're going to tell you that. And the good news is there's good news. There's lots of opportunities in the year ahead, and we're going to be covering that. So you might be thinking, oh, the state of media sales is very sobering and everything like that. And yes, it's not all sunshine and roses, but there is plenty of sunshine, and we're going to be sharing much of that with you today. So we also wanted to remind you, just as Patrick said, to enter your questions in the control panel. If we don't answer your question, either Christina or I will then follow up and answer your questions via email after the webinar. So we're going to break this down into 3 parts. The first one being the revenue perspective. We're going to do the revenue perspective. We're going to do the perspective of the sales manager and the perspective of the media sales representative. So the first one, revenue perspective, is really insights from media company leadership and financial analysts. So let's go ahead and dive into that. And we asked the question regarding the sales that you're responsible for: how much revenue growth are you forecasting for 2025 compared to 2024? And so you see the bar chart here of how sales managers and executive leaders answered this question. We did not ask salespeople this question. And as you can see, the good news is that the 3 bars at the top show an increase, the 3 bars at the bottom show a decrease, and the bars are bigger on the top than they are at the bottom. Certainly there are some media, print in particular, then that show up in the bottom, but most of them are flat or decreasing 1 to 5%. A few outliers there that get you the bottom numbers. And a lot of the other media companies that are actually showing increase or expecting an increase in 2025 full year revenue versus 2024. So we also then asked the question about their corporate revenue forecast that they get. And so one of the things that Christina and I hear a lot is, oh, this is going to be a bad year. Oh, I think this is going to be a good year. Or we're very optimistic about this, that, and the other thing. And that is based on corporate forecasts. So if we go to the next slide, Patrick, we want to show you, there we go. We asked them a question based on how you expect to finish 2025. How accurate was your company's original forecast for the year? We asked them to rate this on a scale of 0 to 10. And the average rating is a 6.4. So some was a little better than that, some actually worse than that on a scale of 10. But if you score a 64 on a test of a 100-point scale, whatever, that's not a passing grade. And some of the reasons for that, naturally, unrealistic expectations being handed down by corporate. This is a number that they wanted us to meet, not necessarily, and leave it up to us to figure out how. And to that end, Two forecasts that were off in particular is digital, and the fact that many forecasts expected much more digital revenue this year than actually what materialized. And the other one is that they expected the automotive revenue to rebound this year. And you'll see in an upcoming slide that I'll share with you in a moment then how that did not materialize and where it did not materialize. Reductions in force, there was a misread of the impact on that. It was specifically valued salespeople or veteran salespeople that were high performers and like that, retiring, leaving for other positions and not being replaced. The rest of it, as far as content production, newsroom and everything like that, you're well aware of that. Self-service losses was something I thought was very important that showed up in the data. Very interesting, in fact. And the fact that a handful of media sales managers commented that when an account goes from full service, meeting with a rep, to self-service, that they actually show losses in revenue. A couple companies that we work with, shall we remain nameless, for example, have decided, well, the small businesses we want to put them on self-service, and we're going to focus on our sales reps on the larger accounts. Problem with that is that the smaller businesses are the ones that need the hand-holding and the advice from the reps, and the larger ones are the ones that are more apt and more they have a greater ability then to use a self-service platform. So there'll be some corrections on that next year. The biggest comment that we got about the revenue forecast is that they're actually doing better than expected. And so that's good news there. Let's go to the next slide. Christina, this is yours.
Yep. So looking at advertisers' reasons for a lower spend, the majority of that was they needed to cut overall expenses, right? Shift it to other marketing channels, which we know is definitely happening. You can see that in BIA's local ad revenue forecast. Impact of tariffs on their business. So that was another big one. And then lower on the list were changes in customers' priorities and temporary business downturns, which is great to see.
So going into the automotive revenue, how the sales managers expect that to finish up 2025. We asked them, will you finish ahead of 2024? Will you end up finishing behind 2024? And as you can see here, almost every item, every sub-vertical on the list then actually has a higher number of folks that will say finish behind than finish ahead. A couple notations I want to make here. Those auto dealerships, it's almost split, which is good. It started off pretty well the first 3 quarters of the year, fourth quarter or whatever, not necessarily where we want it to be. Hopefully we'll see more commercials with people giving away cars with giant bows on top, which I never really understood. But anyway, they're advertising it. And then tire dealers. It's actually, we're seeing a slightly more finishing ahead than finishing behind, but they're within the statistical margin of error. So it's about the same. Let's go to the next slide. And we want to break down healthcare revenue because this has always been an area of growth for the media. And the top thing that I want to point out there are senior communities and assisted living. We're not getting any younger. The United States as a whole, whatever, we have an aging population. And in particular, this is an area where cable, radio, and print actually sees a fair amount of gains. Obviously, print is perceived to have an older population, an older audience, if you will. And the other two is doing quite well. Broadcast TV and cable, TV in general with the hospitals. And then you see the numbers here for dentists, cosmetic surgeons, and orthopedics is one where print shows up very well. Print, by the way, you're going to hear us talk about these 3 categories for media types. Print, we are considering newspapers, magazines, and direct mail in that. So that's what you're going to see here going forward.
Okay, so where's the growth? So this is interesting. So when we asked media sales managers where the growth was for 2025, you can see that home improvement services is really at the top of the list, along with senior assisted living, entertainment, banks and investment, restaurant and food, and employment recruiting. So this is interesting because if you go to the next slide and look at some of the opportunities that BIA shows in their Q4 2025. So these are some verticals where there's some opportunities, and they're a little bit different from what sales manager said we're doing well in 2025. So this is great opportunity for you all to go after. We have direct health and medical insurance, and this is for specifically TV OTA. I think radio's next, but for TV OTA, we have direct health and medical insurance, online gambling, wireless telecommunications, department stores, supermarkets and grocery stores, and furniture stores. So some business verticals to keep an eye out on and go after for Q4 2025. Next slide. So we're looking at the same thing here for radio. So looking at radio OTA, where's the money and the overall ad spend, some verticals that you can focus on for Q4 2025, direct health and medical insurance, tier 2 local automotive association, clothing stores, hobby and toys, jewelry, luggage, and sporting goods stores. So these are some areas for radio. Next slide. And then where's the money for CTV OTT? What verticals are spending money in this media channel? So you can see legal services, huge amount of money for legal services, tier 2 auto dealers, supermarkets again, and grocery stores, tier 3 new auto dealers, new car dealers, hospitals, and QSR. So a lot of money going to CTV OTT in these different business verticals. Now, what to expect for 2026? So we looked at our BIA's ad revenue forecast that we just released. Well, our latest update was in August of this year, and we can see for 2026, TV OTA and direct mail, cable, radio, and CTV OTT. Your top opportunity for 2026 is political. Not really surprising to anyone. So that's on the top of the list. Also for TV OTA, we have auto, out of home. We're looking at restaurant and foods, newspapers, general services, and then cable, which cable linear. We're looking at general services there as well, which legal services is included in our general services category. Direct mail, you have retail as well as political. Radio OTA, you also have retail along with political, and then CTV OTT, again, general services, which is inclusive of legal services. So this is, you can go on to BIA store, and this is a 20% off any of the reports that are on our store. After each forecast update, we do put out vertical reports that are specific to those verticals and do a deep dive into where the dollars are going in the media mix and where some opportunities are, as well as sales strategies. So this is a code, Media Sales 20, for you to all use to get 20% off on any of those reports. Next slide.
And likewise, we want to tell you about AdMall. It is the way for your sales reps to sell smarter and be street smarter. And we've got a whole library of videos and articles called the Sell Smarter Awards, where media sales reps have paid for an entire year of AdMall for their entire company with just one sale. And some of the revenue numbers are really quite astounding. We hope you check that out. AdMall is great for local sales intelligence. We give you deep prospecting intelligence, valid business reasons that you can then go out and share and start conversations with your prospects and your existing accounts. We have shareable market research, which includes our exclusive audience scan psychographics. B2B buyer scan focuses on B2B decision makers, as well as market research like demographics, where the consumer spending is down to the zip code level, housing, and so forth. And we also include a lot of great AI tools for media sellers, including a digital sales coach, which has been trained on over 1,000 different articles from leading sales consultants, along with our own research. We're going to give you a 2-week free trial if you're not using it already. Most of the major media companies in the United States are already using AdMall. But if you're not, take advantage of this free 2-week trial, scan the QR code to learn more, set up a demo, or visit admall.com. So now, Audrey, I'm going to turn it over to you then to lead our discussion and Q&A about this first section on revenue.
Thank you, Lee. So thank you to everybody who showed up today. For those of you that came into the room late, I see there is a higher number than when we started. So I know some of you are out there. We are doing 3 different discussion and Q&A breaks in here. So please, your reward for showing up live is you get to ask the questions. If you have a question, don't even hesitate. Put it right in the window and I will be watching and we will ask. We actually have a question from Todd Handy. Thank you, Todd. Thank you for coming.
I know Todd. Hello, Todd.
Yeah, the Radio Inc. article this morning mentioned the forecasting is becoming a credibility issue for sales leadership. From your perspective, what's the biggest barrier to making forecasting a true management tool? Is it data discipline, leadership accountability, or the way teams are trained to think about pipeline rigor?
I want to jump on that because it's not only then from the corporate level, because there is like, okay, they have certain numbers that they have to meet to satisfy stockholders and their boards and everything like that. So that's one part of it, but it really goes down even down to the deal level. And sometimes sales managers that are trying to put together these numbers to report up, they're flying blind. And it's for a multitude of reasons. The salespeople aren't using the CRM like they should. They have various silos of data that aren't connected all in the same place where they can actually use that data against each other to actually come up with a good forecast. And then, of course, it's a matter of the age-old problem of overly optimistic salespeople telling you that the deal's about to close any day now, whatever, and they're nowhere close. And so all of these things make it difficult then to project revenue, as well as we've got an environment now too with the economy being volatile is the term that I'll use. It's always been unpredictable, but you never know from one day to the next if there's going to be a new tariff or something's going to happen with the stock market, or if there's going to be a sell-off or a spin-off or everything like that of various media company competitors and things. And the business world is moving faster than it ever has. So, that's why I'm delighted, for example, to see BIA. Then they don't just put out one forecast at the beginning of the year, but they update it throughout the year as new trends emerge. Christina, what do you think about that?
Yeah, and one thing that I was going to add to that is we do have a budget worksheet that is interactive. So it's basically looking at what we forecast out for all of the 96 different business verticals that we forecast for. And it allows you to put in different numbers, and it gives you the amount of money that you need to bring in per month in order to achieve those goals. So we do have a solution really to help the broadcasters with forecasting, or any of the media with forecasting out for next year.
Great, thanks. This question also for both of you. Does the data show if there are any verticals expected to actually disappear in the upcoming years? Probably for technology or for whatever reason. I don't know. What do you all think?
Christina, I'm going to let you take that one first.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen any verticals really disappear. I mean, of course, you'll see verticals that are going to be spending less money, but I haven't really seen any disappear. I mean, they're changing the way that they're spending their ad dollars, as we all know. This is the first year that digital channels have overtaken the traditional channels. So that's something that will continue to see grow, but I haven't seen any of the verticals necessarily disappear.
I don't see anything that's really striking that is a significant share of media revenue. So I haven't really seen anything that we really need to be worrying about at the moment.
Fantastic. Okay, well, let's move along. And just a reminder to you, if you have a question, type it on in. We have 2 more question breaks just like this, and so we'll get to your question. Okay, Lee, back to you.
Okay, let's go ahead and do segment number 2, which is the perspective of sales management. And let's go ahead and dive into this. So we asked sales managers then, what categories are you most optimistic about for 2026? And how we broke this down is that you hope, or that you expect there to be greater revenue in 2026 than 2025. So the top 5 are broken down this way. Number one, home improvement services. Look, you can't turn on the TV anymore these days without seeing an ad for a roofer or a window washer or, you know, window installer or something like that. And that's great. And that's expected to continue. 70% of all media sales managers, not just TV, expect that revenue number to increase next year. As a matter of fact, home improvement services, as well as the next one I will share with you, had the most responses for very optimistic. So optimistic considers somewhat optimistic and very optimistic home improvement services. And the next one, healthcare services, is 63% of all media sales managers also ranked as the most very optimistic. We have other local services. Banks and investment is number 4. Then you have political, and particularly in political, this was rated high with the most optimism, primarily by TV, cable TV, and radio, as well as direct mail. So overall revenue being not political, 58% optimism, which is really pretty great going into 2026. Let's go to the next slide. This is one I thought that was interesting. So a few months ago that I managed to sit in on a session at a conference where it was basically CFOs of media companies. And that prompted me to ask this question in the survey this year. We asked managers the questions like, what media products are the most profitable for your company? Then we asked the sales reps, what media products generate the most commission for you? And so number one for managers most profitable are legacy products. And this is really true for the legacy products where you're generating a profit margin, around 80%, give or take. With digital, however, the numbers that I've heard are closer to 30%. Then we get into online display banners, OTT, we have the video, and then events and sponsorships, especially number 5, especially in radio. If you look at where the sales reps are generating the most commission, it's digital first, then legacy, followed by social media advertising. So what we have here is our sales comp plans are enticing sales reps to go out and sell more digital. The thing is that the profitability is on legacy products. And the other thing is that it's easier for the sales reps to sell digital than it is to sell legacy. So sales reps in media, being not unlike sales reps in all other industry, are going to sell what's easiest to sell so they can make their number and they can generate the commission. You may want to take a look at your comp plan, though, since selling the legacy products are the most profitable, but also harder to sell, and thus less apt to be sold by sales reps than to goose that up a little bit and provide a little bit more incentive on the legacy products. Christine, I believe you got the next one.
Yep. So concerns by media companies. So in the last 12 months, what has gotten harder, right? Navigate issues of employee stress, anxiety, and mental health. That rated top for all of the different media you see on here. Then meet corporate expectations. That was huge, right? 80-90% for broadcast TV and cable TV. And then hire quality salespeople. That was another one. Radio, not able to hire quality salespeople. We need people who are not just radio, TV, print salespeople. We need salespeople that can do everything, right? They need to sell across every single asset that you have to sell. And so that's becoming a lot harder to find those people. And then secure the budget I need for my team. So really, getting the budget right and ensuring that you're able to meet your expectations and your goals. Now, the top 5 business challenges. So sales managers for all media, so unpredictable economy. That is the top challenge, right? No one has a crystal ball, unfortunately. None of us can really guess what's going on, but BIA does have their forecast that can really just help understand and forecast out what it may look like. And like Lee said, we do update that 2 to 3 times a year. So we are keeping in mind all of the different things that are happening in the economy and in the local markets. So that forecast will reflect that unpredictable economy.
Yeah.
Lack of qualified. Sorry, go ahead, Lee.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'll add to that then to the analysis of 440 plus verticals that AdMall does, which we update, on almost on a daily basis if absolutely necessary. Any changes in trends, consumer spending, consumer preferences, and the buying behavior. So we also update that. So that in tandem with the BIA numbers will really give you a solid understanding of what's happening in each particular vertical and how the changes in the economy and tariffs and the other things that Christina is going to talk about actually impact each of your verticals that you're selling to.
Right. Yep. And lack of qualified sales applicants. That goes back to the other slide where we saw that it's hard to find people who are going to cross sell on all of the different assets that you have to sell, and that they understand what they're selling and they can go out and talk about it. Inflation and tariffs, changes in buyers' behavior. Buyers are becoming more reluctant to spend money because they're not sure of the economy. Well, this isn't really a time for them to pull back. They need to keep, they need to keep advertising, or they might not have a business they might not have a business in the future if they don't keep advertising, right? So it's very important to talk to these advertisers about why they should be advertising and to maintain that through even, the difficult times. Increase in competition. I mean, we all know there's a ton of competition out there. One of the things that BIA's forecast allows you to do is look at all 16 different media channels that we forecast out for and see how those dollars are being allocated in your local market. So you can understand that, your competition is not just radio, it's not just, cable or direct mail. There's a whole bunch of them that are out there that you're competing against, and how can you put together the best story to be able to sell your assets to these advertisers? How can you bring them the best solution?
Yeah, one of the things that surprised me a little bit, it was AI and automation and the changes that that's bringing then to not only the sales team, but, the advertisers also have AI as well. This only ranked 7th when we asked this question. So we had a fair amount of questions in this year's survey involving AI, and I'd like to share with you some of the findings from that. So we asked the perspective of media sales managers. Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. So go ahead, Christina, you got this slide.
Sorry about that. So a free report that you can find in the document up here on the webinar, you can get a report on CTV OTT, and this is going to give you the 2025 top spending categories for this media channel. It's also going to look at the overall spending, and you can get that free after the webinar right now. Thank you, Lee.
Okay, now that I teased that, let's go ahead and jump in with giving you some perspective on what media sales managers are thinking about AI, the adoption, the action that's being taken, and some of the avoidance that actually they're encountering with the sales team. So 40% say that AI is a top 5 company priority in the next 2 years. As we've covered, it's number 7 on the list. But here's another issue, though, with that, is that 38% of sales managers personally understand the value of AI to their team's overall success. So it's kind of hard to manage and lead something when you don't really fully understand what the value is. And the more alarming thing is that sales managers, 15% of them, only 15% say that their companies have clearly defined goals for AI in the future. So this is something clearly that needs to change. It needs to happen from the top down. At levels above the sales manager and the VP of sales at the various local media properties. Let's dive into that a little bit further. When we asked sales managers as well as executive leadership some of the questions about AI, 43% of them said that they have little to no budget for AI tools. And then we asked the question, okay, do you expect to have any increases in your AI budget, and how big are the increases? 30% said that they expect to have no increase in the AI budget. So you have 43% with little or no budget, 30% saying that they're going to have no increase in the budget for 2026. And so the thing in which we have to do here is utilize the AI functions and features in the tools that you already subscribe to and that you're already using, whether they be in AdMall or whether they be in any other tool. I mean, if you're using a browser or anything like that, Microsoft Copilot, we see a lot of people using that, the free version of ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and so forth are all things that you can use in addition to AdMol tools. 39% say that they are skeptical about AI output and have little trust in AI output. And so because of that, that everything that comes out of it should be should be validated by a knowledgeable human being. Now, I will say that this is much lower than what Salesforce says what their customers say. Customers overall say that that number should be 72%. So 39, quite frankly, is quite low. And so we really need to be focusing more on not just pumping out AI content just so we can get it done quicker and faster, but our credibility is really at stake against errors and hallucinations and omissions and questionable sources. And so we need to take a little bit more time doing that because that's what's expected of us by the customers. We asked folks, sales managers, to give the 5-star rating on various things, but we asked them about their sales team's use of AI. And the ones that's scored average to poor, 64%. So not a lot of faith and belief then in how well that their sales team is using AI and is adopting it. And also lastly, 30% believe that the sales team needs more training or better training on how to sell with AI. Let's go to the next slide here, and I'm happy to share some additional things with you. Also in the document section, at the top right of your panel here, we have a free bonus report. So as I mentioned, we have a ton of data and insights on AI and media sales, how your peers are using it and how they're not using it, the trends that are going to be shaping the future of AI adoption and ROI. We even break this down by media type because there are some stark differences there. And also then we're going to be comparing media sales teams to sales teams in other industries in a separate survey that we did. So you can go to the handout section or go to salesfuel.com/AI and you'll be able to download this report. It's a great report. You'll love it. There's lots of great stuff in it. Also then back to the comment that the sales managers made about the lack of training and how their salespeople need more training on how to sell with AI. This speaks to the next slide that we wanted to share with you, and that SalesFuel through our SalesCred platform is all about AI and sales training. And what we do here that's a little bit different is like, we're not going to teach you how to prompt or anything like that because the technology changes every day. What doesn't change is how salespeople influence buyers. And so what we do here is we show you an equation, which is AI plus BI. BI is your use of business intelligence. And the best business intelligence is not on the free internet. It's not someplace where AI can grab a hold of it and report it. It is typically locked behind a paywall. And any subscription-based service, research takes a lot of money to conduct or whatever. So obviously we're not going to give it away for free. So you've combined those two things, that's great. But the missing element here though is EI, emotional intelligence. And so we're going to teach you then how to make sure that you don't lose the human connection and how you present it, how you share it, and how you use it then to serve your customers. AI plus BI plus EI equals ROI. We start off by giving you a sales assessment, a situational judgment test on how to leverage AI in a sales situation using emotional intelligence, but also critical thinking. We conduct sales training, we do consulting, and it's all based on my best-selling book, SalesCred. So you want to know more about that? Scan the QR code, go to salescred.com. And Audrey, I'm going to turn it back to you for Q&A about the sales management perspective of this year's.
We have a question about profitability, that one of the first things you guys touched on in this section. So somebody says, legacy products often deliver higher margins with shrinking revenue dollars, and newer digital data products have lower margins but offer revenue growth. How do you both recommend leaders think about balancing those two realities, protecting the high margin core or lean harder into scaling the lower margin growth side of the equation?
I touched on one, which is basically taking a look at your compensation plan. That's the best way to balance it because it's out of balance right now, and the reps are gravitating more to digital, but also it's more likely because their bonuses and their commissions then come from that because that's what we've emphasized going toward the future. It's going to take an awful lot of the lower margin digital then to make up for losses that we're seeing in legacy products. And part of that is because we're really not focusing enough on it. But the other part of it is it's not measurable and controllable. At least it doesn't have that perspective uh, by the advertisers. So what we have to do is increase the incentives on the legacy side to keep that in balance in with the growth that we're seeing, the incremental growth that we're seeing on the digital side. That's the first place that I would start.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, I would, you're always going to have some people who are, more, they know more about they know more about the traditional or the legacy than the digital. So use those people to help the others, on each of the other side sell the product. So if you have someone who's an expert in linear TV, let them go and help the one who's not as up to speed with linear TV. And so that can bring in the dollars and help on both ends.
Yeah, and that's another good point, data point that we got from this year's survey is that we noticed that the veteran salespeople, those that have basically been in media sales for at least 10 years and a lot of them 20 years and up, they focus heavily on the legacy products and don't really adapt to selling the digital side. Whereas the newer sales reps, it flip-flops. And so what you really have to do there, the second part is that when you have an opportunity to add somebody to the sales team, or most likely if you're able to replace somebody on the sales team, if someone's retired or something like that, is to replace them as best you can with a millennial or a Gen Z if you can get one, which is very difficult to get one that's any good, but get somebody then that is more digital. If you're in an industry like radio, for example, radio has a per capita a older sales team than some of the other media. So that's one where I would take a look at that as well. But it really is not only on how you compensate and incentivize salespeople, but it's also then the salespeople that you hire going forward.
Well, that segues into the next question from our audience. You guys are great. I'm getting questions coming in here. Bill Moore asks, finding quality salespeople is a major issue in Barbados. What is the best possible way that sales managers can address this? And how can AI play a role in enhancing skill capacity?
Yeah, I'll take this one too. It is really this is an issue across all industries. It's not a media problem. It is a problem in any industry that's trying to hire salespeople. A big problem of that is that there is a large distrust and a large disinterest, quite frankly, in the sales profession by the younger generations. And I'm thinking of people specifically 30 and younger. It's not a sexy industry. They perceive it as this high commission grind, and the only way they're going to make any money is to force people to do something they don't want to do, and it's not alignment with their beliefs and their philosophies. So we've got that going on, and I would say the way in which we do that is to change how we talk about the sales profession, particularly in media. That, and instead of talking about it's an opportunity to make a lot of money or anything like that, it really has to speak to their cause-driven side, and so it really needs to be spoken about as a mission, to help small business owners and their families thrive and help local communities thrive. Instead of talking about commissions and things of that nature, that speaks more to that, and that's a big step in that direction.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Oh, so I was going to say one thing. This T-Rev article I read today talks about how the brand or the advertiser is wanting to be in front of people. They want that human connection. And so as local sellers, you are in the communities. And so that just goes along with what Lee said about, making it a mission more than about commission.
Got it. Privacy question here from Jory. Thank you for your question, Jory. With the growing state's privacy law consumers on digital platforms, do you think this will affect ad spending in the next few years? Any thoughts?
Privacy has always been a big issue, and particularly when we get into the area of AI. So I want to talk about that for a second. And the fact that the biggest question that you're going to get when an advertiser is talking to you and the topic somehow gravitates to AI is how are you going to use my sensitive business information and the secrets that I share with you and everything like that? Are you going to be using that to train your AI tool and everything? Is this going to be shared, through AI or anything like that? And it's really important then for all of our media companies then to have a responsible AI policy, otherwise known as an ethical AI policy, where it breaks down what we're going to do with AI, what we're not going to do with AI, and how we're going to be transparent about that, with our customers, with our advertisers. And first of all is to actually have that clearly defined, but then for the sales managers and to coach the sales reps on how to answer these questions based on that policy. So if you don't know what your company's policy is, start asking questions about it, and volunteer, quite frankly, to serve on a committee then to actually adopt one if you don't have one. A good example of one of these that I've seen recently comes from Gannett. Now they're talking about not only how they use AI in the sales situation, but also how they use it editorially. And so you can find that on their website. I thought that theirs was particularly well done. But we can point you, matter of fact, the white paper we just put out, the AI in media sales, actually has a link then that will take you to an example of that, as well as the web page on the SalesFuel website.
Okay. Any chiming in on that? Okay. Well, let's head to end it. We've got about, we got to keep going here. We still have quite a bit to get through, so I'm going to hand it back to you, Lee.
Okay, we're going to talk briefly about the perspective of media sellers. So let's go into that. There are three interesting stats I wanted to share with you. Is that the number of reps who say that they typically meet or exceed quota each month is 34%. It's a bit lower than many other industries. But what's interesting about this for you, keep in mind as a sales manager or as a company leader, is that this is conveniently broken down in thirds. It's a third of folks then that typically will do less than 90%. And many of them actually 70% or less. That's not good. Another third between 90 and 100, and then the 34%, which is 100 and up. So that's an interesting way to think about how your salespeople should be performing in regard to quota. Next stat I'll share with you is that 60% is the number of average compensation that is performance-based. It comes from commissions, that comes from accelerators, comes from bonuses. Across media, and this number really varies by about 10% on various media types, but that's the general range then that your fellow media sellers are facing. And the third one is that we asked each rep, what is the average chance that you're going to be voluntarily leaving within your job within the next 12 months? And that number is 25. So it's a 25% chance on average that a rep will voluntarily leave their job in the next 12 months. Not 25% will leave. It's just that there's a 25% chance on average that they'll leave. Let's go to the next slide now. And to that end, we asked reps to rate their companies in various departments, various ways that other departments support the sales effort. And we asked them to do this on a 5-star rating again. And I wanted to share with you another great piece of news here. 82% rank their direct sales manager, giving them 4 to 5 stars. So, as a sales manager, sometimes you may wonder, am I doing the right things or whatever? Do I have a great relationship with my sellers? And the answer is very likely the answer is yes, and sometimes yes with a bullet. Corporate leadership, look, the number of low ratings or poor ratings for corporate leadership is double what it is for a sales manager, and about the same amount lower. This is common though when we surveyed all media sales reps and all sales managers. It is very common for your direct sales manager to actually rank higher and be more highly thought of than, say, the CEO. So that's normal. We want to get into sales training. This is the reason why in Admiral we added new sales training for new sales reps that have never sold media before. It is because 23% of sales reps in media rank their company's efforts in sales training as poor. And so that's something that we really need to turn attention to. Yes, I know because of budget cuts and being squeezed and everything like that, that training is one of the things that go first. So we're trying to help in that area. The amount of support that salespeople get from their marketing department is an issue. And let's go ahead and stay on that slide, Patrick. So 62% then actually give it 4 to 5 stars, but 16% actually rate that as poor. Now, we want to take a look at the inbound lead. So if you remember like the movie Glenn Ross or whatever, where the number 2 salesperson where it says these leads are crap. This is a common, Audrey is in charge of marketing. Christina then knows about this. Mackenzie, who's not on screen or whatever, or BIA, they all know that this is a common refrain. 54% rank the inbound leads as crap. So that's partly on the marketing department, but the marketing department is maybe more for what's on the website, what's in the sales materials, that sort of thing, as well as the branding and the reputation in the market, that they're not satisfied with that. Inbound leads, really we feel like that should be on everybody, but that's a problem in media, but it's not just media exclusive. Again, this is something that we see across all industries. So that's the number. You can take comfort though in the fact that it's not any worse than any other sales team that's out there going right now.
Okay, looking at looking at media sellers experience. Gosh, among all media sellers, so you can see the red is harder and green is easier. When we're looking at pretty much, all of the different things, selling online digital advertising, selling marketing services, meet advertiser expectations, selling traditional, making money in the current position, everything has gotten harder for the seller to be able to meet all of these goals and to be able to do what they need to do to help the advertiser get their brand and their product out there. Now, some of the things that have been easier, 30% saying that selling online and digital advertising is easier. And so I think that, companies have done a great job at getting your people up to speed on selling these digital services, especially when historically they sold the traditional services. So that's good. But looking at the traditional sell and making money, those are the 2 most difficult areas for media sellers.
The next thing that we did was very interesting. What we did is we took a look at the media sellers then that routinely hit like 110% of quota and up. And we compared them then to the salespeople that routinely do not hit quota. And we found some very interesting things in common that you'll see on the next slide. You'll see Leah Harrelson, by the way, one of our best Sell Smarter Award winners, and she does a terrific job, and she does a lot of these things that set her apart. But we've noticed then among all salespeople, first of all, they have a great working relationship with their boss, the direct sales manager. So sales managers are rated very highly, but they have a great working relationship with the boss. They are motivated by, yes, making more money, but winning. They are very competitive. They really are driving their companies then to be more competitive as a whole. And also they're looking for advancement, that a lot of that they're much more likely then to be looking at jobs in management or looking for jobs that challenge their skills, bigger, better accounts, and the like. They've taken full advantage of the resources, the research, and the sales tools that they have been given by their companies. So they don't just use them, they use them to the fullest advantage. When they use AI, all right, the typical sales rep, they will use AI for writing outreach, writing emails and sequences and things like that. But the high performers, though, are also more likely than to use it for creative content and ideas that serve the customer. They also sell multiple forms of digital, not just one. And they're also more likely to sell outside of their primary market, which is also something that's very important. So these are the common traits, characteristics then of those in media that exceed the quota as opposed to those who do not make quota. Now, one of the other things that's interesting is that we asked about NPS scores. So this is a thing where we said, are you likely then to tell your friends and colleagues, this is a great place to work. I recommend working here. So let's go to the next slide here. And you'll see that high performers for media, this is a crazy number. You want to be over 0, all right? Here it's 49. that the high performers are more likely to recommend their companies, which is great. That basically shows that the higher performers then will vouch for their company, that they're satisfied in working for their company. That bodes well for retention. When I compare that to all media reps, that number is a 32, which is still a great number. That's up from 19, which is the last time we did the survey back in 2023. I mean, even newspaper, for example, which has the lowest NPS score, is still above 0. That's out of 7. So that is great. And among the highest that we see in media is radio. Once radio gets in your blood or whatever, you love it. They stay there forever. And it's really a passion that they something they really love. That's a 41. So when I compare this then to all U.S. sales positions across all industries, that NPS score, let's go ahead and show that down at the bottom here. That NPS score is 25. So you see that the media is actually ranking higher on NPS scores than all sales positions across all industries in the United States. That comes from a separate survey that SalesFuel has done called the Voice of the Sales Rep that was done this summer. So fresh data all the way around, but it actually shows that the people that are in media sales or whatever, highly recommend that then to friends and colleagues. So we can actually use them. Another piece of advice that I will give is to use the hired performers then to speak to how great a job is, which goes back to an earlier question, because they're the ones then that actually are recommended it already. So I want to talk about training here again, and that here on AdMall, we've introduced a new program, and we've done this program for the past couple of years, but we continue to revise and refine it. And it's called the New Business Targeting Workshop. And the way that this works is that we have helped media companies, they define a category that they really want to go deep in. And specifically, we asked them for a couple of accounts that they think that they should have, but they really want to have. And we take the entire sales team, on a crowdsourcing exercise then to figure out what are the best AdMall resources we can use, what are other great resources that we can use, and what tactics and sales strategies should we use then to be able to win that account over. You're going to get a discount price of $7.95 just by mentioning that you were on this webinar. It's a 2-hour session. And we're pleased then to have been recognized by Selling Power Magazine as one of the top sales training companies across all disciplines then for 2025. You can scan the QR code and learn more about the New Business Targeting Workshop from AdMall.
Okay, and so the local market performance report. This is something new that we just started, and if you want to get ahead for 2026, you can get this report. It has your local market on it. It'll also give you projected spending across the different media channels. It'll give you the top 10 business verticals for TV spending or radio spending, and then it'll show performance comparison with the 16 competitors. So you can just email me or go to our online store and use this QR code and order that report.
So Audrey, we've got time for a couple of questions then on Q&A about the media sellers and their attitudes and perspective.
Well, a couple of these go back to other sections, but this is from Kathy. It's kind of like a 15,000 foot level analysis she's asking for. She says, in regard to the top 5 business challenges, do you have a thought or analysis on what the changes in buyer behaviors might be in the next 2 years that cause almost half of managers to say that the buyer behavior is the top challenge?
AI is being used more as a search engine rather than Google, and they're getting answers and they're getting advice then on what products they should buy, what type of products that they need, and everything like that. So that is one instance of buyer behavior. Of course, we're seeing going back to that comment or that survey finding about increased competition. Look, I can start an Etsy store, when this webinar is over. I can go onto Amazon basically and start up my own little department, on the Amazon and become a competitor to just about anybody I want, assuming that I have a good product then to sell on that marketplace. So I think it's those two things, that the online will continue to be a thorn in the side of, not just media sellers, but, as well as all bricks and mortar stores. But also the advent of AI has also changed then how shoppers are shopping. And we're going to see that increase over the next 2 years.
Christina, any thoughts? Okay. And then, oh, go ahead.
No, I didn't have anything. Thank you.
Okay. And then in regards to the inbound leads, the low scores for inbound leads, do you guys have any thoughts as to why, in terms of formats that broadcast over the air and radio, are the two highest formats that complain about that, about the quality of the inbound leads? Any
Well,
thoughts?
I'm going to say that digital is actually much easier to generate the inbound leads. Because for example, you could do digital audits, for example, using AdMol then for prospects that you've identified or something like that, and turn them into inbound qualified, marketing qualified leads. You can do that. Much harder to do that though on an over the air and terrestrial media, because it's not digital. So that's going to be a little bit harder to do. I think what you have to do there though is tell success stories about how they've met with your media sales reps, make them the star. Okay, they are the trusted media advisors, the trusted marketing advisors, and show that successes that they've had, on increase in sales, increasing the amount of leads, and being able to put those out on videos or send those out in email campaigns or something like that, and generate leads that way. That would be my piece of advice on that.
That sounds good. Okay, nobody's put in any more questions, so I think we are good for closing out. Lee,
if you
and
have any
Christina,
further
final thoughts?
questions,
Yeah.
for Christina and I just will encourage you then to put those into an email, and we'll be happy to answer those questions afterwards. So what we've put together now are 10 takeaways for success in 2026, and Christina and I are going to share those. So Christina, you get the start.
All right. So improve your sales strategy by targeting verticals forecasted for growth. Don't let negative corporate forecasts be self-fulfilling.
Yeah, and that's because of where they've not shown to be super reliable, and also because the world is changing so fast. What you can't do is that if there's something that's negative or whatever, prove them wrong. Prove them wrong. Number 3 is to build data-backed recommendations for advertisers based on where their customers and also where their competitors are. So you can use the digital audit on AdMol. You can use the local account intelligence reports on AdMol. You can use the forecast, the vertical forecast, and from BIA to actually show, where they should be and also where their competitors are as well. You can use the audience scan data in AdMol to show where their customers are and how they're doing pre-purchase research and how they're using various media. So use this. Number 4, consider aligning your comp plan with profitability. I've already talked about that at length.
Number 5, provide better training, coaching on using AI in sales. Number 6, boost your competitive edge by knowing your market. So with BIA's local ad forecast, you can look at your local individual market, and you would be able to see all the different competitors within your market and where those dollars are going to. Integrate traditional and digital marketing approaches that best appeal to your advertisers' target audience and customer.
Number 8 is to coach your B players on the behavior of your A players and your C players on the behavior of your B players. So I'll go back to that slide. Not you, Patrick, but it's like after the webinar is over, take a look at that slide again on the differences between the highest performing media sales reps and everybody else. Coach them on that. Watch the Sell Smarter Award videos and read the articles on the media sellers or whatever who've had the greatest successes, and you're going to see some things that they do that most of your sales reps on your existing team don't do, and those are great opportunities for coaching and developing your team. Number 9 is to feature your top performers in your recruiting efforts. Talked about that already, but basically these are the people then that are already giving you the highest scores and are more likely to recommend your company to a friend or colleague that might be looking for a sales job or looking for a change. And so because they rank you so highly, and because they have such a great relationship then with the sales manager and everything like that, they are the perfect people to talk about your company and why they should work there. Number 10, to finish it all up, is that you always need to be reminding advertisers that when they're talking about budget cuts that they need to make, is that stronger sales make budget cuts unnecessary. Okay, this is something that, of course, you want to be doing yourself as a media company, but also then for the advertisers, then that, that winning, cures all ills. Stronger sales makes budget cuts unnecessary. And if they don't like the pain of making budget cuts, invest in making those sales stronger. So to be more successful in 2026, here's what you need for revenue growth.
BIA's Advantage, which is our local marketing platform that runs all of our forecast data through it for all of the local markets, both TV and radio. And you can go to BIA.com.
And then there's AdMall, which is the #1 business intelligence platform for local media sales and also digital marketing agencies. We focus on the tactical, BIA focus on the strategic. So basically it's street level that you want AdMall, and it can pay for itself with a single sale. We've got many, many instances where that's happened. Want to learn more about AdMall? Of course, go to admall.com. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Patrick, to take us home.
Great. Thank you guys so much. As we mentioned before, we have recorded today's webinar, and all attendees will receive that with an email tomorrow with also a PDF of the slide deck, so keep a lookout for that. And also, as I mentioned before, again, just on your way out, if you could please just take a few moments to fill out a survey on today's webinar and let us know what you thought of today's webinar. And again, if you have any more questions, you can also enter them there, and we'll make sure we'll follow up with you guys afterwards. So I'd like to thank you again for your time, everybody, and thank you to Lee and Christina for your time and answering all the questions we had, and hopefully we get more that we can follow up with emails afterwards as well.
Thank you, everyone.
So have a great day, everyone.
Yep. We'll be contact with you soon. Have a great day. And if you have any other questions, please just let us know. Thank you.